Okay, first up, we got Murat and David from Suffolk. Welcome, guys. Thank you for coming.
Hi, guys.
How's it going?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Great.
All right. So, Murat,
Yes.
David. Okay, why don't we just open this up? You guys tell us where you work and what your roles are.
Great. First of all, thanks for inviting us. My name is Murat Melek. I am the Director of Design AI with Suffolk Construction.
And I'm David Morgan. I'm a BIM data engineer at Suffolk Construction. So,
So what are your roles? What do you actually do within Suffolk with the data and AI? Well, great question.
We have 20 minutes.
Yeah. We are a construction firm, and you can think that we receive designs from different companies, Gensler's, Perkins and Wills out there, different consultants, and our aim is being able to get those designs, whatever form they are in, and feed it into our pipeline, process it, do the QA, QC requirements, and maybe in some cases complete it.
And are you also considering it from like design through to construction? Because obviously you're delivering construction as well. So design goes through like estimation and then planning and then delivery. Like, is that how you are using Speckle and the other tools that work within that ecosystem?
Yes. I mean, David can talk more about the Speckle part, but I mean, we have a mature data pipeline, which we started building way before we joined Suffolk. The construction side, RFIs, change orders, we have a good pipeline. Where we are really utilizing Speckle is the building information model. If in order for, like you pointed out, in order for you to get a good estimate or follow change orders, you need to bring all this data together. So Speckle is key for getting that building information data, which is messy, which is complicated, which is dirty, and get it into our data lake in a way we can use.
So David, maybe you elaborate a bit about Speckle. How exactly are you using it?
Yeah. So I was kind of really excited when I joined Suffolk because I wasn't really aware of how construction was using this digital technology, and this was one of the first places or only places I saw that they were looking for someone that had Speckle experience. So and I was like, God, this is great. But for
job, like
that was on the job description. Yeah, I was really happy. I was like, I fit this really well. So for what I'm doing at Suffolk is that I'm focusing on how this BIM data highway comes together. Like, we have all this stuff in pre-construction, and then we are piping some of that data in directly to our data lake, but it's almost completely disconnected from how the model works. So for us, what we're trying to do is figure out how we can source directly from that model and give us more rich and consistent data. And so from there, what we're trying to make sense of is, okay, if we're pushing directly from, we have our modeling tools and ACC, and we're doing all of this authoring there. And then how do we actually go through the process of extracting and cleaning that data when we pull it right into Speckle, and then making it accessible to our, upstream for construction. So it's been right now we're just figuring out how all this comes together. We've been piloting a lot of the early stages of how this pipeline works. And right now it's really nice to see how much infrastructure is already in place and how they work. And there's a nice tiered data lake system that helps us kind of process up to like a clean business, business logic within all the data. So
how like in a layman's terms does data that is produced in like a BIM model get into like an estimating system or similar? And like, is the data like usable and readable between the two systems, or does it like get handed off at some point where it's actually totally different department? Because in an ideal world, my guess is that you want everything to be like kind of talking to each other, but maybe we're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think realistically, like right now, it's a lot of copy paste. Like that's realistically, like we'll get some model information together, or just how it's run is that we'll take the information and figure out what software we're using to do estimations and place it in there. But for us, we're trying to all of that information comes directly from the model. So the problem that we've always faced is that we can't access that information with like a clean and meaningful way. So for us, that's like we need to find that information, pull it out, and then place it like programmatically into the place it needs to go. So
Speckle helps.
100%.
Yeah, and you can think it for example, the room we are in. We want to price this room. There are certain codes that use to price, let's say, that wall and that wall assembly, but that data might be coming from architect B, architect C. So different software, different descriptions, different materials used. So we pretty much using Speckle Automate for this instance, getting the data in, and the AI algorithms pretty much deciding, hey, based on what I see here, the closest matching code is this, so that we can programmatically move the data to estimation, like you are pointing out.
What about existing old projects that were done 10 years ago, still in the BIM, and can you still utilize this data somehow right now?
We are. It's one of our in our pipelines. We are doing that. That being said, how valuable that data is going to be is up to debate, because building codes change, and there's this thing called curse of dimensionality, right? If you think about design, it's a multi-dimensional problem. So as the dimensions increase, the number of data points you need increase exponentially as well. So you might say, okay, I have 500 projects. I'm going to build the next foundational model. It's not so easy.
Dude, that's a hell of a lot of data. Yeah, I find it fascinating, like the use case from a construction company's perspective. Yeah, I guess it's like not obvious that people, like contractors, would be using something like Speckle to like ingest the information that comes in, and then they're somehow going to utilize that. It's not really a question, it's just a point.
It's actually, one thing to note just on that is like one thing we've kind of found is that when you look at everything, all the screens at Suffolk, right? There's not a lot of people that use Revit there, but like we use all this data we're using comes from like a BIM model of some sort, and Revit's not BIM, but like it's realistically, it's the tool that's helping everyone edit and author it. So really, like, it's interesting to see not a lot of like design tooling happening at Suffolk, but it's all dependent on this type of design data. So that's kind of the big value add for us, is that we have a small team that's utilizing Speckle to distribute all this data and actually get BIM data into the hands of people that are necessarily working with it. So
speaking of data transformation, what lessons have you learned while being in the process of transforming the data?
First of all, off-the-shelf LLMs don't necessarily work well for AEC use cases. So
they didn't work, or
they not necessarily work too well. So you need to keep experimenting, testing, and try to generate as much as synthetic and real data to further fine-tune those models.
Yeah, because you can't, the data generated from large language models is like kind of useless.
Yeah, to some extent, we use them to generate synthetic data in successfully, but you are right, you can't use them for most use cases. You can't use them just shelf.
Maybe you can tell us, like, what are the challenges when trying to extract more data, more valuable data from the models that you have?
Let's take an example. I mean, there are so many use cases, but let's take an interesting example. Incidents occur, right? Change orders happen, RFIs. A very, very compelling use case is, how can you tie these problems on the fields to the actual geometry or the actual elements that constitute that building, right? You mentioned past projects. This is one of the areas where past projects really come to shine. The question you ask to yourself is, if a certain, let's say, a wall element with a certain finishing detail is always creating problems over and over again, how can you grab the data out of your BIM data sets and convert it in a format that AI can make sense out. See those patterns.
This is like risk reduction, potentially design, like noticing design faults before they're a problem on site, and then see that results in cost because of the latency.
Exactly.
That's super interesting. Okay, maybe a few more questions. You're in London, based in Boston. We're going to be with you in a couple of weeks, doing a similar thing. So excited for that. What's your key takeaways from SpeckleCon so far? I mean, we're like halfway through the day, right? So I guess there's still more to come. But Murat, I think you're actually doing a talk in maybe an hour or so.
David's going to be giving a talk in 1 hour, and I'll be in the keynote panel. For me, I think the system is broken. The system is broken. No one is happy. We need a new way of doing things, and I think Speckle it will be there as one of the key tools to make things change.
Yeah, it's nice. I've someone that's been like have a couple of years under my belt working with Speckle. Like, it's my first time in person meeting a lot of people, so it's fun to break past the Zoom boundaries, and seeing people in real life. But it's nice. It's great to see a consistent amount of like errors or problems that people are all sharing across the board. Just within the first few presentations, you can see where people are having, like the biggest friction point of loading and working with 3D data. And, realistically, if we want to work with BIM data, like all the tools that designers have right now are very limited and like require someone with a special focus and special skill set to be able to access it. And so I think it's kind of refreshing to hear everyone kind of having the same problem and how they leverage Speckle in a way is like that informational backbone. And I think that's kind of the big like value add here is that realistically, like a lot of people have custom needs that they want to build on top of when it comes to like thinking about their workflows in AEC. But like the big pain point is like, how are you going to stand up this ability to convert and process 3D data or like do all this fancy computation when most of the time design firms or construction firms don't have that in the budget to stand up that type of technology and maintain it. So for us, working with Speckle is like a really key value add to us for us to be able to build and achieve our goals faster, so and more efficient.
Anyone?
What would you say to other general contractors? What would you say to other general contractors?
That's use. I would say use it, or I mean, I think I would definitely say I would make use of your data. Like I think that's the important detail because it would be challenging to bring Speckle on if we didn't have a data engineering team that was on the hunt for that type of data. So I think like there's definitely still a growing like understanding of how data works within AEC. But I think realistically, like the more people will keep gravitating towards it.
Data is the key.
It is the key.
Okay, Murat, David, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.